war wasn't over yet, and the Nazis could still put up a fight. But the end wasn't too far off. Back home, the American people rolled up their sleeves, spit on their hands, and got ready to go to the polls for another vote. Remember this one?
These Republican leaders have not been content with attacks on me, or on my wife, or on my sons. No, not content with that. They now include my little dog, Fala. Well, of course, I don't resent attacks. And my family don't resent attacks. But Fala does resent it. You know, Fala's Scotch. And being a Scottie, as soon as he learned that the Republican fiction writers in Congress and out had concocted a story that I'd left him behind on an Aleutian island and had sent a destroyer back to find him at a cost to the taxpayers of $2 or $3 or $8 or $20 million, his Scotch soul was furious. He has not been the same dog since. I am accustomed to hearing malicious falsehoods about myself, such as that old worm-eaten chestnut that I have represented myself as indispensable. But I think I have a right to resent, to object to libelous statements about my dog.
It didn't take the people long to make up their minds. When you ride your money on a winner, you keep it there. And F.D.R. was elected once more for the 4th time in a row. Yalta, Russia, and F.D.R.'s last meeting with Churchill and Stalin. The Jerrys and the Japs were feeling our heat on all fronts, and it was time to figure out where we go from here. This was when the date for the San Francisco Conference was set. A conference he never had a chance to see. And then, a message to Congress, his last.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Congress, I hope that you will pardon me for an unusual posture of sitting down during the presentation of what I want to say, but I know that you will realize that it makes it a lot easier for me in not having to carry about 10 pounds of steel around on the bottom of my legs, and also because of the fact that I have just completed a 14,000-mile trip. There were two main purposes in this Crimea Conference. The first was to bring defeat to Germany with the greatest possible speed, with the smallest possible loss of Allied men. That purpose is now being carried out in great force. The second purpose was to continue to build the foundation for an international accord that will bring order and security after the chaos of the war, that would give some assurance of lasting peace among the nations of the world. I hope in our history, and therefore in the history of the world, there will soon be presented to the Senate and the American people a great decision that will determine the fate of the United States, and I think, therefore, the fate of the world, for generations to come. There can be no middle ground here. We shall have to take the responsibility for world collaboration, or we shall have to bear the responsibility for another world conflict. And I am confident that the Congress and the American people will accept the results of this conference as the beginnings of a permanent structure of peace, upon which we can begin to build, under God, that better world in which our children and grandchildren, yours and mine, the children and grandchildren of the whole world, must live and can live.
That was the final message he gave us before he left. Well, you know the rest. He didn't live to see the end of the war, but he knew that end was near before he went. He didn't live to see a lot of things he'd fought for all his life. I guess some people might think that this is where the story ends, but they're wrong.
He's gone now. He's out of the White House, and everything he stands for is finished.
What's finished? You better take another look, mister. You see those people on the street? You see those faces? Everything he stood for is right there, mister, in their minds, and they won't forget.
Plans for a new world? What's the matter with the old world? It's good enough for me.
But not good enough for the rest of us, brother. Not good enough for the guys who died on the beaches and the ships. This is what Franklin Roosevelt planned for and worked for and died for. He didn't live to see it, maybe, but he started it off. And what a godfather he is for a brand new baby.
The United Nations. By any chance, do you recall the League of Nations?
Brother, you've got me there. You scored a point. This dream of F.D.R's is what we make it. No more, no less. It can fall apart like an old jalopy, or it can move along with full steam ahead. It's up to us. He made a will before he died, and the writing was big and clear. To the old folks, he left security and comfort. To the young folks, he left hope and the chance to live and look ahead like human beings. And to the kids, he left peace. But no will is worth the paper it's written on unless we appreciate what we get. It's up to us, brother. It's up to us.
He's dead now. He's gone for good.
Who's dead? Him? You're wrong, mister. He's not dead. His kind never die. You should have learned that in your history class when you read about Abraham Lincoln. He's alive, mister. In a billion hearts and a billion memories, he's alive. As long as there's one man on earth who can read and think, he'll always live. As long as there's a kid in school who looks ahead to a better life, he'll never die. He's here, right here. And he's staying for keeps. Just listen, mister. And listen hard. Just listen.
The service of democracy must be something much more than mere lip service. It is a living thing, a human thing, compounded of brains and muscles and heart and soul. The service of democracy is the birthright of every citizen. The white and the colored, the Protestant, the Catholic, the Jew, the sons and daughters of every country in the world who make up the people of this land. Democracy is every man and woman who loves freedom and serves the cause of freedom.